Okay. So real quick before we start, so you guys have heard basically my thoughts. I thought about making a video about it. Spark of Chaos, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. Thank you, man. Thank you so much, dude. Thank you for the 5 gifted subs, dude. And train of thought. So you guys have heard what I've said before on stream, if you watch my stream a lot. I thought about making a video about this, and I probably still will, kind of giving you my recap of how I feel about Classic, things I did right, things I did wrong, some things that I'm hoping for the future of Classic, and I also wanted to include in that video what I think about Burning Crusade comes out. Now, you guys have heard what I've said. You guys have heard what I've said about... I think that Burning Crusade beta is coming in February sometime, around the time of the BlizzCon Online. The reason why I think that is because I also think that we're realistically going to get Classic Burning Crusade at the beginning of the summer, and we'll actually have a Classic Summer, which is one thing that people complain about a lot whenever they released Classic Summer at the end of August, which would then make Classic, the duration of Classic only be a few months shorter than the original timeline of Classic, probably by about 3 months. So I think a May-June release is what I've said. And using the timeline of an August release of Classic and a May beta for Classic, I think that TBC beta will likely come sometime in February. But I think TBC needs to be May or June, in my opinion. So apparently some things were leaked earlier. You don't know how factual it is, but StaySafe made a video on it. We can watch StaySafe's video. And from what I've heard, it goes in line with my theory. But I've been right on dates before, but again, that's just, it's happened a few times where I've been right on dates, but it's just kind of happenstance. So continue.
What is up, guys? StaySafe here. So I recently came into some information regarding the release timeline of Classic WoW TBC that I figured I would share today in this video. Now, it's very interesting because I've seen this information posted on a Classic WoW fan forum in the last week or so. It's been DM'd to me as well on Discord, and I ran a confirmation by who I would consider to be a very trusted source. I asked him about it, and he confirmed it as well. Now, I'm always super cautious with doing content like this.
Now, to be honest with you, I haven't heard anything specific. So I haven't heard anything. This is just kind of what I thought based on what I've said in the past, right? I've been saying I think Burning Crusade Classic at the beginning of summer for 2 years now. So I don't know.
But I
haven't heard anything.
I genuinely think that this leak is right on the money, based on the forum post I just talked about, the trustworthy source I confirmed it by, and by posts like this on Nano's Twitter here suggesting the leak that we're going to be talking about today. And Nano's a trustworthy guy himself. Now, it seems like this information is starting to float around based off all this stuff, so I figured I'd talk about it. But as always, there is a chance that this isn't true, so use your own judgment and come to your own conclusions. And of course, let me know down below what you think, and make sure to follow and like the video while you're there. So with all that being said, let's take a look at the leak. So here's the information here, here's the leak. Exactly as it was sent to me, and exactly as I saw it posted on the Classic WoW fan forum. Same exact wording, same exact...
Oh! TBC pre-patch. TBC pre-patch would be April 14th. Okay, that's interesting. So that would be about a month before release. Release marked for May 4th. Okay. 3 weeks.
So
okay.
It might have been the same person, but anyway. TBC beta, mid-February. TBC 2.0 pre-patch. Earmarked for April 13th and 14th US/EU. TBC release date, earmarked for May 4th, global release, in parentheses, meaning May 3rd, 6 p.m. US Eastern Time Zone. So here are my general thoughts on this timeline before we start really breaking this down. Honestly, this timeline is much faster than I had personally expected. I was sort of thinking we'd be playing TBC in June or July 2021, but I'm really happy to see that this is the timeline if this leak ends up being true.
I mean, this is right on the money with what I thought.
In February, if they follow through with this stuff. This timeline means that there will be almost exactly 5 months between Classic WoW Next Rammus release date and Classic TBC launch date. This is honestly a perfect amount of time for a multitude of reasons. Phase 6 isn't exactly the most popular Classic WoW phase, and I doubt anyone wants to be stuck.
Which is weird because it's, you know what's funny? They say Phase 6 isn't the most popular phase, and that's actually kind of true. But you know what's funny about it is the least amount of guilds have been able to clear this raid content. Why is that? Like, and I'm talking about percentage of guilds that are still raiding. There's guilds falling apart because they aren't able to clear Nax. Nax is harder on Classic than it was on private servers. Which again is interesting, and given that everything else was done was easier. Given that everything else was easier, I actually think that they stealth buffed Nax. I think they under the table went and buffed Nax, which, by the way, I have no problem with. I am all in favor of that. I think that's great. Anyway.
For potentially 7+ months, right? This also means that Classic TBC will have around a 2-month beta hype phase where people can get excited, play the beta, watch the beta on Twitch if you didn't get in yourself, make videos, talk about it on streams, pump out guides, read guides, and people in general can start making their TBC plans, all of which are really important for the success of the game. I mean, look at this. Look at the Classic WoW hype versus the Shadowlands hype here on Google Trends. It's absolutely insane what hype
that's weird.
and build up can do for a game, right?
Oh. Yeah, that's true. Now, okay, yeah, that makes sense. The Classic WoW hype was ridiculous, but yeah, I think Shadowlands hype was really, really bad. Like, nobody cared about Shadowlands. But then now what's happening, and you know who actually hit the nail on the head with this? Was NMP. NMP hit the nail on the head with this. He said, I hope that what happens with Shadowlands, it ends up being like a sleeper expansion. Like, everybody is burned out from, BFA sucking. People are unhappy with this, that. The Shadowlands has gotten delayed 100 times. If it ends up actually being good, it could be one of those expansions that just happens to keep, like, generating more and more, like people just getting more and more invested to it as time goes on, because they're like, wait, this is actually good. And so far, that's my personal opinion on it. That's how I feel. I feel that they've done a good job of, they've really done a good job with this expansion. And I've said this from the beginning, well, let's give it some time, but I don't remember an expansion where almost a month after launch, I was still happy with it. I don't remember a single one. I didn't even feel that way about Wrath of the Lich King. So I'm still happy with Shadowlands, surprisingly, to my own surprise. And, I think that's good, because I was planning on playing Shadowlands in a way where, like, I could practice for TBC because I want to go hard in arenas and stuff. Let's continue.
Now let's take a deeper look at each of these points in the leak and break them down. So first and foremost, TBC beta. So as everyone knows, BlizzCon is February 19th and February 20th of 2021.
Now, here's what I'm interested in. Where's the sources for these? I don't know what the sources are.
Meaning it is very likely that they announce Classic TBC and start the Classic TBC beta pretty much at the same time, right? Maybe on the same day. What exactly will be tested? It's hard to say. When Classic WoW was in beta, it was only level 1 to level 40. The content was pretty limited. So I highly doubt that all of the TBC content will be available on the TBC beta. Honestly, the TBC beta
I wonder what they're going to do.
More of a promotional tool than an actual beta test itself.
Yes, I do agree with that. It probably is going to be more a promotional tool than anything. But something that is kind of annoying to me, I really didn't like how Blizzard did. I did not like how Blizzard did Classic WoW raids. I felt really, I felt personally like I felt kind of burned by how Blizzard did Classic WoW raids. They didn't do any sort of raid testing at all. And because they didn't do any sort of raid testing, what ended up happening was they released the content. It was just way too easy. And it ended up not being fun for a lot of people because they didn't feel like any sense of accomplishment, right? Now, Molten Core and stuff, yeah, absolutely, it's easier than it used to be. But on purpose, they on purpose decided to base everything off of 1.12, including itemization, player power, right? Because the class balance and all that stuff was changed from the beginning of WoW to the end, which, by the way, I think is fine. That's how most private servers did it. That's how the Nost Core did it. But they didn't do... They did not do progressive itemization. So all the strongest items and everything else that was ever in the game was then put in at the beginning, whereas on private servers, we didn't have that. So the content was much more difficult. Molten Core was still relatively easy because it's Molten Core and there's really not a whole lot of mechanics on the bosses. But another thing that happened was because it was patch 1.12, everything was post-nerf. So any sort of boss nerfs or anything else that had been put into the game, it was gone. They Or sorry, hold on. It was already put in. I think I explained that weird. Anything that they did to nerf the bosses from the beginning of the game to the end was all implemented. So what you did was then you took the strongest version of the players and the weakest version of the bosses, and then you threw them out there. And then what ended up happening is it just ended up being way easier. It ended up being way easier than anybody expected. And it's not that people put vanilla WoW on a pedestal so much as Blizzard just screwed it. And they put this notion of no changes and this and that, but it wasn't no changes at all, right? You couple these conscious decisions that they made to make the game easier because they wanted it to be more accessible to the player base that didn't play retail. I do think that's the case. I think that they 100% did that. You take that and then kind of couple it with the fact that people were really, really hardcore into wanting to play vanilla WoW for real, right? Because they've been playing on private servers. There's a drama. The server gets taken down, all kinds of stuff, right? You put those two things together and you end up having probably the worst... it's not the worst ever vanilla experience, WoW Classic, but it was a much, much worse experience than what people expected, and not nearly as good as the experience of a server like Lights Hope, Nostalrius, Elysium. What was the last one that they made? That whole server structure, right?
That's kind of how I look back on the Classic WoW beta, at least. Next up, TBC 2.0 pre-patch.
No, vanilla was never hard. It's not even true, right? Like you're just like a retail Andy trying to like make up whatever. It wasn't the case.
This one is super interesting.
The only major talent that was changed for Warriors was Mortal Strike, and originally did half max health as damage. No, it did 200% of weapon damage as damage, Hole and Deer. And no, they made a lot of changes. The Warrior changes happened in patch 1.6. So
the way this is worded, it almost makes it sound as if we will actually have...
Isn't retail more casual friendly than Classic?
Where we have proper itemization, talent, and spell adjustments.
Classic is a much more Classic is a much more casual friendly game than people give it credit for.
Patch through Classic TBC, almost perfectly replicating TBC back in the day, which is something that everyone knows at this point we did not have with Classic Vanilla WoW. That being said, I actually highly doubt this is the case, and I'd bet that this is just a euphemism, meaning this is where we'll get TBC 2.4.3 talents, spells, maybe Draenei Blood Elves, which I think is a smart move, and level 6.
I think that they need to put the Draenei and the Blood Elves into the game. This is my current thought, and I'm not 100% sold on this. But I think that they need to give us Draenei and Blood Elf early. They need to give it to us in the pre-patch. If they give us Draenei and Blood Elf in the pre-patch, that'll allow people to go and play, level up their alts, and it'll kind of give the pre-patch a little bit of life. People want to level up their alts, get to 60 before the expansion hits, and then once the expansion hits, they can then level up their Blood Elves and Draenei just on a normal timeline. Now, here's my concern with that. I think there's a lot of Alliance Paladins that are going to reroll Horde because Blood Elves are ridiculously better. It's not even remotely close. It's one of the worst decisions that Blizzard ever made. It's actually miserable how much better a Blood Elf Paladin is than an Alliance Paladin. Not even remotely close. The racials are better. They come with the Seal of Blood as opposed to Seal of Vengeance, which makes them do a ton more DPS in PvE. The racials, they have a mana tap, a mana drain, and an AoE silence, which fills a huge gap, like a huge hole in the Paladin's toolkit in Burning Crusade, because they have a damage cooldown, they have a consistent DPS with Crusader Strike, they've got the utility, all that stuff, but what they don't have is they don't have a silence. They're one of two classes without a silence. The other one is Feral Druid, but, the other one is Druid, but Druids are insane in Burning Crusade, so it's not really that big of a deal.
60 arena content, which is something that we had for 1 month back when Vanilla transitioned into TBC back in the day. Interestingly enough, a lot of people forget that. And I think we'll have, this is a 3-week time period, right? We'll do this while we wait for the Dark Portal to actually open itself and lead us into Outland on May 4th. And the third point of the leak, TBC release date. Now, like I mentioned earlier, this would have Classic TBC releasing around 5 months after Naxxramas releases in Classic WoW, which I think is a perfect amount of time. Having a
Is there an expansion where Druids weren't insane? In Vanilla they're good, but they're not insane.
Classic TBC
it's not expansion,
announced and confirmed,
whatever.
And the beta released all at once does an amazing thing for Classic WoW as well. It sort of spiritually ends Classic WoW Phase 6, where you're bored, there's not a lot to do, Naxxramas is kind of annoying and expensive, and there's been let's be real, there's been a pretty big player drop-off, and it ushers in the Classic TBC preparation phase, which is overlapping with Phase 6 of Classic WoW, where you
yeah.
can start planning out your approach to TBC, potentially farming materials, farming gold, leveling alts, whatever. It all depends on what restrictions they impose on what you can and can't bring into TBC, and this is my speculation. They would probably give all these details.
There's 4 specs. At least one of them will be good. No, there's 3 specs. The 4 specs for Druid wasn't added until some later expansion.
In February.
Dude, the amount of people that talk about Classic WoW that have absolutely no idea what they're talking about blows my mind. It happens all the time, too. Have you guys noticed this? Like, people will bring up people will bring something up. Just like people will bring up they'll talk about vanilla WoW, right? But when they're talking about vanilla WoW, it's just garbage just coming from their mouth. Or really Classic WoW in general, right? Like the old expansions. Just like you're talking about boobs. I am a boob expert.
At BlizzConline when they announce the beta, right? Now, this is going to lead into the final point I want to make in this video. So let's take a quick look back at some of the surveys that Blizzard has sent out regarding Classic TBC. So in May 2020, Blizzard sent out a survey asking how you as a player would like to transition from Classic WoW into Classic TBC, be it fresh 1 to 70 TBC servers, fresh or progressive servers where your current Classic characters move on into TBC as they did back in the day, or some other similar options. Now, very recently in December 2020, Blizzard sent out a survey, very interestingly enough, talking about progressive TBC servers, where you're going to progress from 60 to 70 into TBC, versus fresh Classic WoW servers. So I take this as meaning that we will
They should do both.
definitely be progressing our current Classic WoW characters into TBC. Whether or not there will be gold caps or anything like that as we segue into TBC, who knows? We'll hear about it more later probably. But for those of you wanting fresh 1 to 70 TBC, considering the way these surveys have gone and the way they're worded, and the fact that we're getting TBC pre-patch in April, if these leaks are true, it seems unlikely that we will have fresh TBC 1 to 70.
I think 1 to 70 TBC would be an absolutely terrible decision, and it will spin population imbalance completely out of control. There's already, well, actually, at the beginning of Classic WoW, there was more Horde than Alliance. I don't know if that's necessarily true anymore. I think it's gotten more balanced since then. A lot of that is because the majority of people playing WoW Classic are people who came from retail WoW. That is the majority of people playing WoW Classic. They did not come from private servers. They did not come from old vanilla. They did not quit the game and come back. They are people who came from retail WoW in recent years, and they've quit recently. That's the majority of people playing WoW Classic. That's just a fact, right? More people were playing Horde, which was very odd for me because I thought more people would probably be playing Alliance. That's how it was on private servers too, because Alliance was a little bit better for like the raid content and stuff, and Horde had like better racials for PvP, but a lot of the best guilds still played Alliance. But it didn't matter because in Classic, all the raid content was made to be much easier than it was on private and much easier than it was in retail vanilla. So yeah. So Horde ended up being more popular because that's what people associate with, whatever. Horde will again be more popular in TBC naturally because the majority of the WoW player base is playing Horde, not Alliance as a whole. So the people who come from retail to Classic, they might naturally just want to play Horde because that's what resonates with them. On top of that, there's basically no reason to go Alliance in Burning Crusade because the Horde racials blow them out of the water. Paladins are way better. Shamans, everything is better on on Horde. The only thing that Alliance has that's nice is like the Draenei racial that gives you like hit rating to your group. It's like, come on, it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, that's basically the case. If you run a 1 to 70 fresh launch Burning Crusade server, you're gonna be looking at 80% Horde servers. Like it's gonna be absolutely insane. It's not good at all. And to be honest, it gives me a little bit of pause to even say that you should be able to make Draenei and Blood Elf during the TBC pre-patch because I'm worried that it's going to kind of exacerbate that. There's going to be a lot of people who, I do not want to level 1 to 60 again. CBA, I do not want to level 1 to 60 again. That sounds like a nightmare. I'm just going to stick to my Alliance character. I think there's going to be a lot more people that are willing to play that way if you don't have fresh servers 1 to 70.
Anytime soon, maybe down the road, but there is the potential of a Classic fresh at some point in the near future, right? Based off of what we've seen from these surveys. Now, if this all ends up being the case, this means that in February, with the confirmation of Classic TBC and the info on how we're segueing into TBC, which they will probably talk about, Classic WoW would see a huge player spike. The economy could be turned on its head. Dungeon boosting.
I think they should do fresh vanilla servers, but that's a different discussion.
Prices would go through the roof as people are returning to Classic WoW or perhaps picking Classic WoW for the first time ever in preparation for Classic TBC. So keep this in mind and plan accordingly if you believe these leaks. And personally, I do. So I'm going to make some changes with my personal gameplay. So with all that being said, let me know what you think about all this stuff, guys. This is all very interesting stuff. So going forward, I'm going to be pumping out a lot of TBC videos here on YouTube and daily TBC discussion and prep streams on Twitch. So make sure to subscribe here and follow me there on Twitch. Also make sure to follow on Twitter for all the latest news and info. Guys, thank you for watching. Once again, let me know what you think. I'm very curious your guys' take on this. And anyway, as always, stay safe.
So here's my opinion on this. This basically goes exactly 100% in line with what I was already planning. That goes 100% in line with what I was already planning. Perception is really good in Arena. Oh, that's true, actually. I think I will say this. Human perception is a lot better in Arena at high rating than at lower rating. And a lot of people don't consider that to be a thing. I don't think human perception is... I mean, it's not like... It doesn't make up for all the bonuses that Horde have. But when you're talking about like the 1%, the really high rated Arena players, yeah, perception is really strong and it's nice in Arena, especially because RMP, Rogue Druid, Rogue Mage, Rogue Priest, a lot of these Arena comps are very, very strong. Stealth is very, very strong. Druids are strong in general in Burning Crusade as well. So perception is a strong racial. Yeah, Rogue, frick. So yeah. What do you guys think? I feel like chat's completely dead. Normally it's not like that whenever I watch a video. Like, what do you guys think?